Sir! That was terrible. Let's try that again. Sir! Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having an amazing day. Got a frog in my throat. Of course, whenever you want to speak, always happens. Hope you're having a great week, great day, great month, and thanks for coming back to say hi. We're going to do some karate in the garage, like always.
Do you want to go do karate in the garage?
Yup.
We had a bunch of rain last night, very humid this morning, so the morale is really low. It's Friday. We're going to try and chug along on the Crew Cab Long Bed S10. And hopefully it doesn't get any hotter. Because the hotter it gets in here, the less I want to be out here. So, what are we working on? I went ahead, took my son's wheel from his Silverado. It's roughly 33 inches. Laid it on the ground, created a template. And what I'm going to do is use this template for our wheel opening on the front end of this truck. Now, this wheel is 26 inches, but you know as well as I know, if you cut it at 26 inches, you're going to end up coming short, falling short. So I'd rather not fall short. I'd rather fall long, if you know what I mean. So I want to lay this here. I had a mark. You see the black line. That black line was from when the tire was under the front end. And I just to give me a general idea. So what I'm going to do is, I think this arc is going to work really well. I'm going to try and save some of this material up here. So I'm going to take some spray paint. And this will give me a general idea what I have to work with, where I need to trim. Obviously, there's going to be some shaping going on here, but we'll let this sit to dry. See that? Wow. Wow. Pretty cool, huh? Good luck drawing that with a magic marker. We're going to let this dry. I'm going to sit this outside. I'm going to put the other one on here. Once these are dry, we're going to take our cutoff wheel. I'm going to cut this out. The plan is, when it's all said and done, to make some real nice inner fenders. I'll put a panel in here and I'll bead roll the panel. You know what I mean? Close this off real nice. Make it look like a finished fender. That's the plan at least. But we'll see how that goes. I'm actually pretty impressed. Sorry, I was grinding, got dust in my eyes. Well, not really in my eyes because I have my glasses on, but I'm really impressed the fact that the last video that I put up, you know, with the plywood thingamabob, it's really doing good. And a lot of people are complimenting on it, and I like it, man. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Very cool. If you have a channel or at some point in your building experience, if you ever decide to do something like that, make sure you tag me in it. Anyway, so our template. So we made our template earlier. It's kind of close. It's weird because of the odd shapes, but got both sides cut out. And keep in mind, they're cut the same, but the firewall on this side is pushed forward more, so it gives the appearance that the hole's offset, but it's really not. Firewall is set back more. It looks a little more. We still have to address this side of the firewall, but anyway, now we can stick the wheel in here and double check some things. I think in the end, what I'm going to end up doing is, normally when you make your inner tubs, you'd shape it out and such. But I think what I'm going to do is make a template for this, bead roll it as one panel, you know, and then because this is the same shape as that, except that concave spot right there, which really isn't a big deal. And then do the inner fender into that panel and almost make it so it's removable. So probably have to fill in, you know, these spots or put some sort of spots where I can riv nut this piece to it and then it can be removed. But now we're going to go back to the table. There's some other things that I wanted to fool around with. Oh, and I have to, sorry, I'm all over the place. I've got to ream these out. I believe this is the driver's side. Yeah. So we got the one reamed out, all ready to go. My table's a little bit of a mess, but oh, see, I've got ADD too, just like Crawford. We go from one thing to the next. I got the Nissan tinted, my ugly ass bed. I can't find any of these in the junkyards or on Facebook or something. Boom, Zach, thank you. Love the sticker. I have the original tailgate, but this side is like who did it and ran. Pretty bad, but who cares? I don't care. It runs really good. And I just wanted to show you that I had it tinted. But anyway, so I'm going to charge my camera and get this engine out, lift the body back up, and then we'll get back to the front of the truck. We'll do some tinkering. How's that sound? All right, guys, it's Sunday. I didn't work yesterday. I wanted to brainstorm all day on Saturday, and I came up with a really great idea. I'd like to show you what I'm going to do. So before I begin, I went ahead and I extended the lower control arm. I don't know, roughly 3.5 inches. Let me move this airbag out of the way. By doing so, I managed to achieve way more suspension travel than originally anticipated. So we're looking at, we'll just call it 9 inches for right now by extending the lower. The only problem I'm going to run into by extending the lower is it offsets the pivot. And I need to find out on Monday, I got to call Flaming River, give them this dimension to see if the rack and pinion pivots will fit inside of this, this angle. It has to. It absolutely has to. So that would make the rack and pinion extremely small, and it would kind of throw off the angle of the steering column. Those are all things you've got to factor in. Worst case, if I have to cheat it a little bit, I can cheat it a little bit. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to raise the engine up probably 1 inch or so, just because the oil pan is real close to the ground, and I don't want that for the customer. But in any event, so what I've done is by extending the lower control arm, I can cut in an airbag, a 2,600 pound airbag into the chassis rail. And what I've done is I've made I'm creating a pocket on the outside of the chassis rail. So for argument's sake, I know it's a lot to take in right now, but I'm going to cut the corners off so I can weld it all the way around really nice on both sides. Now this will go on the face of the chassis like so, pushing out the bracketry on the side of the frame rail. And if you look, let's see if I can show it better this way. This would all be a void inside of here, so you'd be able to get your fingers in here to put the bolts in for the bags, and then you'd be able to have your fitting stick out to run your airline. Now I need to determine the actual height of this to where to cut it, so I'm not going to cut this just yet, but by doing this, it allows me to create a hole almost like a spring pocket as like an S10 chassis, and I can get the bag in here, and the bag should not come anywhere near the lower ball joint. Worst case scenario, I can always cheat it a little bit like that, and I would still be okay. Obviously, the suspension's not bottomed out, but you get the point. So I can offset the bag. I can create a pocket into the lower control arm for the bag to mount, and we should be good. So one thing I want to point out, I was assuming there's a factory hole for the S10 that's right here where my finger is, not this, here. I was assuming that that was the center of wheel opening, and it's actually not. It's very close. It's about 1/2 inch off. So what I went ahead and did was scooched it over both sides. I aligned my marks on the chassis, and this was 33, and then it was 16.5 inches, I believe it was. It was 16.5, and 16.5 is 33. So now my marks are transferred. I can go ahead and start aligning and tweaking and such. I basically created a removable fixture. Just remove these 2 bolts, and this whole thing just comes right off. Basically, this is not going to get bolted in. It's going to get welded in, but for the sake of cutting the bag brackets into the center, which would be right here, obviously it's going to go on an angle. I have to work on that. That's my next step. But there it is, man. That's the upper control arm mount. I didn't drill this one out just yet because I'm not sure what caster I'm going to set it at. And caster is measured on this angle right here. The S10 spindles have caster built into the spindle, so I may not have to drill this on an angle like that. So we'll have to see. But yeah, get in there, man. I might have to put a little bit of a bend into the upper control arm so it clears, you know, this right here. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. She's coming along really nice. I'm very happy. So part and parcel of what I do is I'll work on something. I'll brainstorm about something else, and then I'll come back to that something else. And I try it, and then I'll do the same. I'll go back and I'll work on something else, and then I go back to the original, what kind of puzzled me a little bit, or how I can make something better. I think I found it. So I've been working on a layout for the front suspension, and I've come up with a set of arms that are slightly radiused. And boy, oh boy, take a peek at this. Watch this. So the line up top right here is bottomed out, 13 inches, you know, half the wheel. Watch how smooth this suspension travels. I got damn near 10 inches of travel before anything starts to bind up. And all I did was radius the control arms. And on top of it, right around, we'll call it 4 inches, this mark right here, watch this, 4, 5, 6, 7. So almost 3 inches, the arc is smooth. Realistically, I mean, you could even start here at 3 and go to 7. You could even almost go to 8. And look how nice the arc is subtle right there, which would be, you know, cruising on the highway. And look, this is the top of the tire. So it's cambered a little bit to keep it away from the inner fender inside of here. And look how smooth that works. Watch the flow of the control arms. Nothing's binding up at any given time. I think I may have found it right here. Now it's a matter of taking this off the plywood and adapting it to the chassis. Still waiting on some parts, and fitting a 2,600 pound bag inside of here. 2,600 pound bags are collapsed 3 inches. This is collapsed at 4. So regardless, if I had put the bag on this mark right here, the ratio is probably 60-40, more leverage on the arm versus it would probably ride smooth, but it's going to take a lot of air to raise it up. But this could possibly work inside of, because you know the bag kind of does that. But this could actually work. And having this arc like this would do justice for mounting the bag, which would put it right around there somewhere. I think I may have found it. This video is going to kind of get cut short. It is, but it isn't, because, well, I originally wanted to have the front suspension mocked up for this video, but we ran into some obstacles. Another obstacle as in rack and pinion. Contacted Flaming River. From pivot to pivot, the shortest rack and pinion power steering that they can make is 24.5 inches. Now that will work on the suspension here, but I was kind of hoping for more around like 22, maybe even 20 inches pivot to pivot. It'd be a short rack and pinion, but the goal in my mind was to lengthen the lower control arm to allow more travel. And I think I've accomplished that by slightly radiusing the control arms and not having to lengthen the A-arms, if that makes any sense. So now it becomes a matter of waiting for my bushings to come so I can mock something up. The uppers are mocked, just not the lowers yet. Also, I have a feeling that I'm going to pay a visit to Daniel at Crazy Days to use his plasma table and make a pancake style cross member. The hardest part would, in my scenario, and here's the reason why, is trying to mount the control arms to the chassis, fitting the rack and pinion, and having the airbag mounted below the frame rail. Normally, your cross member would house your mounting location. Imagine it as a like Toyota or Mazda, how the bag is basically in line with the mount. I don't have that luxury because the wheel has to sit so far in, so I have to stuff the bag inside of the chassis rail. So you lose that cross member to mount your lower control arm. So by making like a Porterbuilt style pancake mount and attaching it front and rear to the lower chassis, I think that's going to do some justice. So I need to come up with a cardboard design to take it to Daniel, have him laser cut it, and then I can assemble it and slide it under and try it out and make mounts off of it. It will look really, really nice. I really feel that that's the way I'm going to have to go. And that's why I was saying I think this video is going to get cut short because of that. But next week's video should be pretty interesting, because then I'll have all the pieces to this puzzle minus my die for my bender. So I can't make upper control arms just yet. I can make lowers, not uppers, because lowers I'm going to do 1.5 inch DOM, and the uppers are going to be 1.25 inch a quarter DOM. I know this is a lot of gibberish and a lot of chit chat, but if you're paying attention to this build, it'll all make sense in the end. Don't skip through the video. Got to focus and pay attention because I have a lot of knowledge to share with you guys. So, back to the drawing board.